I'm doing modestly better than I was a few years ago. It's not night and day. It's not. I'm still angry. I'm still very poison pill in this whole mental health thing. And it's no one's fault. I actually have very low aptitude because if you know me as a person, you know that I'm intentional, soft spoken, like a lot of other guys. A lot of other guys my age, you know? Age is just a number. And there's this correlation of age with all this other stuff like class and effort and economic value and people taking things for granted and not paying people properly. If you think we live in an equal world, then you're not my age. And if you are, you're probably a lot like me and you have a lot of mental issues. A lot of issues about fairness and justice, and that's not what justice is. It's not your projection of your values or your politics. It's actually supposed to be kind of fair to that person and to their loved ones and to their wants and needs. So, my personality is, well, I'm brainwashed by a liberal media that I chose. I chose it because some of the things that I was learning initially about equality and equity kind of resonated with my pseudo Christian kind of imprinted moral compass, you know? But you have to be told those things to realize which ones have high priority. And for me, church was a huge part of that. But it was also a huge part of my kind of frustration because young people are quick to judge. They're quick to judge the system, other people, the adults, how much time it takes to actually earn a living. I'm not on my ass at all. No. Sometimes I have days where I like to practice calmness, and sometimes that feels like laying down. I don't actually have a lot of haters, like on surface level. Most of my anger and perceived threat detection is all on the outside. It's stuff that I'm projecting because I'm self-conscious, and I need to rescue myself from that. It's not a someone's doing this to me. It feels kind of sometimes like someone's doing this to me. It's not. And I'm not that aware. This is me projecting awareness. Awareness is consistency in ethics and value despite pressure, despite judgment from other people. Because when people's eyes are on you and there's risk or feelings that you have, or wherever you hold it, if you hold it in your body, if you hold it in your mind, if you hold it, in a facial tick or something like that. And I feel like one of the reasons that I cared about money from a younger age was in part because I was worried that other people seemed to not have it, or that my judgment was perceiving something that was different. And that was me being incorrect or not understanding. And now that I have a marginally broader worldview, I'm more receptive to the lesson on the non-neolib side of liberal mainstream ethic teaching about equity and equality. And what's worse about that is that I feel still very angry about it. As if it's mine to fix. You know, who cares? Who cares? Sometimes, we eat at home. Yeah, I'm there. No one cares. People care, you know. They don't not care. And also I've had a reluctance to try and understand conservative politics because I'm usually looking from the top down. You know, not what conservative folk believe. Because in reality, conservative folk probably understand to some degree much better how long it takes to build jobliness and uprightness, moral, not correctness. Like, sometimes liberals absolutely use it as a bludgeoning tool. And I can think of no better example of that than a category of people that I've seen toxic material about online, not from digging for it, but from it popping up in my feed, about third wave trans exclusionary radfem, and especially the whole demonization of the trad wife archetype, that they need to be taught something. It's like vibe. It's a fucked up vibe some people are on. And that's something that I cannot understand at this point. It's not something that I need to moralize or worry about. Because in general, I think that feminism is a very positive thing. If you have a sister, or if you've had someone, a friend, that needs not protection, but needs advice and sistership, or seeks that, then there's a whole world of advice that is supposed to be just for women and young folk. And that's something that I don't need to concern myself with as a boring, you know, ADHD male. I don't need to study it yet because I can't even find the time of day to exercise, you know, because I'm just trying to stop chain smoking. Like, that's a goal. It's not my number one goal. My number one goal is ultimately creating an environment where I don't feel the need to chain smoke, and that's not the same thing as not chain smoking. Not chain smoking is an act. Not needing to chain smoke is depending on how bad your situation is, could be a long-term battle. And it has to do with well-being and all this other stuff. And then the concept of needs and desires. I'm not going to pressure myself too much. I looked different when I graduated from school. And that was because I had a momentum that I was heavily convinced that was entirely false. That there was stuff about how much money I was making that was not true. There was situational stuff about my relationships that were also very tumultuous at the time. And now it's not worse or better. I'm trying not to try to fix things. And I have that habit of trying to fix things, trying to inject myself into some place where I don't need to. And you know what most of it is? Is virtue signaling. Plain and simple. Virtue signaling hurts people. because either you're using it for yourself, which is kind of a little bit permissible at times. Everyone gets it. You signal. And then there's learning how to use virtue signaling to be a manipulative person. They're kissing cousins, right? Like they're next to each other. And when I was younger, you know, I thought of my sister like my mom, and I shouldn't have. And then she wasn't there, and I wanted her to be. But not really. It was mostly about the absence of the attention that I was receiving. She didn't hurt me. She didn't hurt me at all. She didn't disappoint me by going to school and growing up. It wasn't like that. And in fact, it was kind of the situational stuff that was related to my trying to understand femininity from a distance and failure at it, because I don't like humanities, I don't like female perspectives, I like the news. I understand that there are women that have class struggles or political stuff that's totally of their own. And the more and more I grew up, the more and more it seemed like I'm just less than a pawn. I am a tiny, tiny part of a much, much, much larger world that includes this prophet, Jesus, and, you know, all this other Western culture stuff that is beyond my need to understand. It's just, so I got sick of it because I wasn't getting the answers that I needed. I wanted quick answers because I felt like I had an obligation towards supporting her right to grow up, and I didn't understand any of what that meant. So I didn't know how to do it properly. And then there were times where you're told to be a normal guy, and you're like, well, sports are too competitive, and I just want to run. Like, I want to do fun things, and I want to kick the ball around, but I don't want it to be a game where there's points involved. Why? Because there's a lot of competitive guys, and there's so much exhaustion and ego thrown into the mixture there that you don't know if you're doing a good job or not, or if you're too lazy because you're not practicing at home, or there's other people that are excelling and you're not for your age. You're just kind of like, oh, I can run, I can kick the ball, and I can control the ball. I can occasionally two-tap pass in a quick way that it almost feels like a one-tap pass, and that feels pretty cool. And then I had trouble making varsity. I didn't make varsity. I was kind of stuck, let's say, on junior varsity, and honestly, it actually kind of felt good because as a junior on JV or whatever, it allowed me to relax some of the ego-related stuff about trying to be on a club level team of, you know, young adult dudes, and just focus on, wow, there's a lot of people that are younger than me that are better than me at soccer. And if I can make it about the team play, then I can get what I want out of the social part of the game, which is just learning how to communicate, how to anticipate or be open and aware, and like be able to accept the communication, you know, just like a quick look, and then the ball's in the air, and then you have to react. You can't, your head can't be on other players. It has to be where the ball is, as well as being like, you know, peripherally aware of where your teammates are and stuff like that. And honestly, being on the JV team as a junior was one of the best experiences I've ever had, because I wasn't as concerned about how fast I can run or how many dribbles and exercises and all that other like pissing contest stuff that I'm like, yeah, okay. And I owe the excellence that I did have to a stellar team called the Wizards in Hockessin. They made me into the athlete that I was at that point in time when I wasn't good enough. Like, it was a process to get there. And so by looking and like comparing myself to other guys and their athletics, I wasn't doing myself a good service to like awareness to the team and the team play that I had learned from games that my parents went to on the weekends and stuff for years. A lack of athletics doesn't mean a lack of character, and it doesn't mean a lack of discipline. The presence of it does usually mean discipline, but at the expense of what? I looked the part mostly, you know? Like, I was fast enough, I was motivated enough, I had sensory awareness in my legs enough to know how to manage my own body weight and momentum to be able to stay on my own 2 feet even if I was clashing with someone, you know? Even if feet were swinging or arms are in the way or they're putting their arms in the way to try and, you know, manage you. And the Wizards was a great team. Anyway, the reason I'm flat on my, you know, as far as learning goes or publishing code, is at the time when I published KamerDB, I thought it was pretty good because I put a decent number of commits into it and stuff and polished it, made it user friendly. It's most of what it does. It's actually very basic. It's very simple. It's deliberately simple. It's honest, actually. And it's a one-off. It's a one-off because I need to learn more fundamentals, not more coding. Learning coding's the dumb part. Unless it's your career. It's how you provide for your family. Then it's a anxiety part. I'll tell you what though. I drove by Wingstop. They said that they were hiring. I sent out about like 5 applications about 9 months ago to that Wingstop that were different service positions and low level, like, you know, team leader kind of thing. That are age appropriate and would pay well. I'm actually not too delusional about that. I'm salty about it. But they're not hiring. They're not going to look at the applications that are already in their system. This is about collecting a wave of applications and then selecting one from the bunch because they're too lazy to tap into the shit that they already have. But as far as the we're hiring thing goes, yeah. And if you're not lucky enough, or if you're motivated enough to work in a position like that, then hopefully you get the reputation of being a good worker. That's the biggest pay, right? Like, the take home is what it is. And as far as class stuff and what other people get away with or have gotten away with from the boomer generation is total bullshit. Looking at inflation adjusted statistics and stuff from cost of living and purchasing power level metrics, not just the dollar value, is sickening. So if your career move and your security, if your job security is being an honest worker, then that's one thing, and it deserves a different type of equity and equality consideration than other places or other positions. And maybe if we're being honest, 100K isn't what it used to be. You need to do the math for yourself to actually look at inflation adjusted statistics. You need to do the math yourself. Because you're given this kind of pie in the sky, like, well, that's a very comfortable living. Well, it used to be. But let's even imagine that it still is, because for statistically maybe more than 60% of the population, it's still a pipe dream. It's not achievable. It's not realistic. The idea that a job like that should also have job security, like that it's not just a high-paying job, but it's also a high-paying job with completely consistent, security of your situation in that company, then you're out of your mind. I think you should look at what normal means. And normal doesn't mean 50%. Normal means where the majority is. It's called central tendency. It's not a 50% between A and B. It means where the majority is. What's a good expectation? And then to be able to compare that expectation with what you need, with what your family needs, and to plan accordingly. And all this AI stuff, like, my leftist alarm bells are going haywire right now. I'm so livid. Because at the same time that they're selling it as, well, this is empowering the white-collar professional to have more and more responsibilities. Just ask your AI agent how to do it the right way. If it's AI generated, it usually shows no thought. It shows no awareness. And AIs as they are horrible at numerics, and that's great. Fuck that. Fuck AI. But the other thing that's not being talked about, that's deliberately the space between, is that they're selling it as worker empowerment. But what they really mean is, well, we want to condense roles. We want to pay people less. And they talk about shit like that in the white collar space, but they don't talk about worker equity and cost of living adjustments. The entire economic model is based on what you can get away with. So I'm kind of caught between my politics as someone on the left who is passionate about class warfare shit, and then being caught between my acumen on a technical side of things and looking at this AI tool and saying, that's the devil. That's the devil in capitalism. And you're lying to yourself, because none of these gizmos in management have any technical acumen in the first place. They're people. And they're not saying the hard truth, which is, it's actually just about disenfranchising more workers. In fact, if we could have an entire AI HR department, we would get away with it. We'd get away with just having robots. And robots is a euphemism. It's not, but it is a euphemism because it means we don't want to pay people what they're worth. We don't want to pay people what I'd pay my neighbor. I like my neighbor. I'd pay him or her. See the signaling feminine? I don't. But they won't say that. And everybody's on board with it. And certain people are becoming billionaires overnight. Millionaires and billionaires just because they threw AI next to something or they relabeled something and people are just throwing out cash like idiots. They do that up there. They don't do it here. That's my gripe. That's my gripe, and it's totally rational. And it has to do with class condition. And the underscore there is, well, class condition is sometimes race condition as well. Not me, I'm white. I'm white, look at me. I'm white as the livelong day. And I talk like I'm white like the livelong day. I care about, class stuff because of me. Because I anticipate being poor. I anticipate being poor and disgruntled. And my parents aren't like that. They're very smart and controlled. And in fact, they're so funny and I don't even see the sarcasm coming. I assume that other people aren't using sarcasm when they are. But there is a white condition, And I think there's a lot of people that just assume that it is and should be and always will be exactly, it's going to be that way. And that's toxic because they have enough money and power to fight for it. They sure are fighting for the dipshit in charge to act like, he's acting like a joke, and they don't see it like a joke. They see it as reinforcing their behavior, and it is reinforcing behavior. It's reinforcing stereotypes and class warfare shit and racial stirring the base shit. It's stupid, and they're buying into it. And there are a lot of folk in MAGA who are turning coat, and that's cool. But again, it's not, you shouldn't make things about race per se. There is an equity and equality thing that needs to be said, and quotas and shit are stupid. I'm gonna go.